good afternoon. I hope you all had your lunch. Hi, good afternoon. Can't hear you guys. Good afternoon. Okay, so this is a very young panel. As we all know that D2C brands are really young and they are gaining the traction here in India. We started using D2C brands during the COVID days, if I'm not wrong. How many of you here are fans of D2C brands? Can you please raise hands? How many D2C brands do you use or have you started using? More than 10 or less than 10? On an average. More than 10, please raise your hands. Okay, so D2C brands are growing, they are gaining prominence, and to penetrate deeper, they are adopting smart technologies, maybe OpenAI or cloud computing. So we'll be delving deeper how they can penetrate deeper into tier 2 and beyond and take their reach global. So we have with us esteemed panelists over here. I'll ask the panelists to introduce themselves and their companies.
Thanks, Charu. Hi, Nikhil Rajpal. Very happy to be here, and I guess we're going to have to wake you up from the post-lunch slumber. I manage a company called Hero Electronics, part of the Hero Group. We have a consumer brand called Cubo. Some of you may have heard, many maybe not. So I'll just give you a quick summary of what Cubo is. Cubo is a smart devices company. We are sort of a hardware tech startup which is building connected devices like smart cameras, smart locks, video doorbells, dash cams for the Indian market, all built in India on a proprietary stack, hardware, software, cloud, AI. Shipped about almost 1 million devices, and been all done here in the last 5 years in India, right? So cloud for us is obviously a large part of both our product offering and how we go to market. So happy to talk about it.
Looking forward to it.
Hi, I'm Amit Nanda. I'm the director at Amazon. I look at seller services, which is all products and people-led solutions for enabling sellers to grow on the marketplace. So we have a team which is feet on street, old world type, which enables around 30 to 40,000 sellers every year to come on the marketplace. And then we have a team which is product-centric, which enables another 1.5 lakh to 2 lakh sellers to come on board and sell on the marketplace every year. Thank you.
Hi. Hi, I'm Shaleen. I am MD at BCG, which is where I lead a growth tech vertical, which is where we work with a lot of digital companies, unicorns and sunicorns. Prior to the consulting stint, I had also an operating experience. I was CEO of Zivame before this, so at least I've seen the startup world up close.
Hi, this is Ishpreet Singh Gandhi. I'm the founder for Stride Ventures and Stride One. Stride Ventures is a fund business where we've invested close to 5,000 crores of capital, 150 companies in the portfolio. Large portion of it is consumer. Some of our portfolio companies are Sugar Cosmetics, Mensa, MyGlam, if you've heard about them. And also run a NBFC business called Stride One, where we do supply chain finance for a host of new age companies. Thank you.
Hi, this is Rahul. I'm founder and CEO of Moglex. We are one of the fastest growing B2B commerce company in India.
Wonderful. As you know, all the panelists over here, you are well versed with them. So let's start the conversation rolling. Amit, my first question to you is, why do you think it is important to upskill entrepreneurship in tier 2 and beyond?
Okay, so I think firstly, this tier 2 and tier 3 sometimes is a misnomer. Mostly when we say we look at tiers, people start thinking tier 2 is worse than tier 1 or tier 3 is worse than tier 2, so on and so forth. I don't think, at least at Amazon, we look at it this way. For me, all of these are just population cohorts which have their own nuances. So we may call them tier 2, but there is no real difference in terms of the kind of people or whether the people there have the same energy. In fact, I would say as you go down the population strata, in smaller cities, the extent of entrepreneurship or the energy is much higher. The willingness to stretch is much higher. The willingness to find ways, and I'm not talking of jugaad, but really finding ways to meaningfully make a difference is also much higher. And this set of cities also has a large population. So if we have to succeed as a country, we have to make sure that this cohort does well. And this cohort will do well when people in these cities do well. And the biggest opportunity is not just selling in your own geography or not just having an industry in those geography in that own city, which is a small part of the opportunity, but the bigger opportunity is that people living in these locations, which would be say 30% of the Indian population, would create businesses, industries which would serve the larger part of the country and the world. Once we are able to do that, that is when we will make real social change. And that's why, to me, it's very important that if we have to be one of the top 3 economies in the world or the top economy in the world in, say, 20, 30, 40 years, the journey has to begin from locations which are going to have the next set of opportunity. That's what we loosely call tier 2, 3 is super important.
So the purchasing power and the aspiration power is also improving in tier 2 and beyond cities, right? So Nikhil, coming to you, I want to understand from you, what is the importance of cloud computing for D2C brands?
I think it's a good question. I mean, I look at it 2 parts. For me, one, as I said earlier, all our products are cloud-connected products, right? Our cameras, our doorbells, anybody rings your doorbell, you can see on your phone. It's because the call goes from the device to the cloud. And look, we have customers, about almost 1 million of them in 50, 60 cities across India. And surprisingly, in Nepal and Bangladesh, I don't know how, but people have taken the products there. So I think if the cloud didn't exist, none of this would be happening, right? So fundamentally, we are a tech company. Cloud is central to what we do, the service we provide, the AI analytics we run. Obviously, that's kind of core to who we are. But also, as I said, how do you sell to our products in 60 cities across India, right? It is because of the cloud platform and both, either if you're using sellers like Amazon, marketplaces, or our own website. End of the day, it's a cloud-hosted website, and it wouldn't be there if the cloud wasn't there.
So cloud helps the brands to penetrate deeper into tier 2 and beyond.
Absolutely.
So Rahul, I want to understand from you, if you can add to it, he says that cloud computing helps the brands penetrate deeper into tier 2 and beyond. So do you think that it also helps the brands grow global? Rahul, if you can add to it.
See, I think we have to think of that there are objectives of a brand, right? The primary objective of a brand is to sell more to make more money. And they want to not worry about the problems that whether the server is down or the DevOps is not working and things like that. So if there is a platform, firstly cloud and cloud global, then they don't have to worry about all of those aspects. They can just think about, can I sell in my state, city, national, global, without having to worry about any of those. And then each of these brands, if you think about it, as they are growing up, the technology budget will be fairly small. So now they can't keep on having DevOps or other people which are across different technologies. So I am actually a big believer that world is becoming flat. You can sell anywhere if you have a unique product. And therefore, why would you not go and select a partner which can take you across the world?
Shalini, adding to it, I'm coming to you. I want to understand, does it also brings the D2C brand at par with the global brands?
I mean, I think it does. It gives you an advantage. Otherwise, it's just very difficult, especially if you're a small brand starting up, to do it on-prem. And I think there are 3, 4 factors. One is, as Rahul was saying, it's an elastic infrastructure. So you start small. You're not spending on a large capex upfront. As you're growing, basically infrastructure grows with you. I think the second thing which is there is, having run a consumer company, as also seeing a lot of consumer tech companies, the most important thing is your consumer experience. You want a seamless, clean experience for the customer. So all your focus has to be on the front-end application, on its performance. And therefore, you don't want to worry so much about what's happening in the back-end infrastructure. Is it modular? Is it scalable? How is it configured? So outsourcing it to a cloud where you are at par with global peers. I mean, Netflix is using cloud. You are getting access to similar cloud. I think it just gives you that advantage. And I think the third point is just, again, looking at consumer tech companies, a lot of focus on LTV CAC, right? So how do you think about conversion? How do you think about retention? All that becomes far easier because you have a marketplace, you have a lot of plug-and-play solutions, you can experiment with them, you can figure out what works for you versus not. As against if you try and build it yourself, it will take you 2 years and you may still not get it. right? I think therefore, overall from a cloud point of view, is just, in my mind, it's almost a moot discussion. I have not seen a single consumer tech company even debating that, you want to go on-prem, especially when you're starting.
So, Ishpreet, I want to understand if a brand is actually using the cloud computing as an aid. Do you think will you invest in that company? What actually adds benefits to it?
Yeah, so let's bifurcate the companies of two categories within D2C, early stage and mid to growth. Typically, you see early stage D2C penetration happens through platforms, larger platforms. That's the best way to reach out. And that's where cloud analytics play an important role. That how do you achieve scalability? We spoke about cost optimization for a young company. Cost optimization can come in terms of either developing things in-house or being on platforms. So the biggest reach point is the platforms, which gives you all the analytics. How do you use the analytics to define your customer acquisition cost, which is a key component for a D2C business? How do you use that analysis to create a better refinement of your product as your younger company? So whether you want to go scalable in terms of going multiple cities or using that data, and how do you pivot around that? So for a younger company, it's a different requirement. For a more mature company in our portfolio, like a Sugar Cosmetics, Mensa, MyGlam, which I mentioned, their pain point becomes more omni-channel data-led, right? So how do you use online channel data sets versus offline and take decision-making on the basis of that versus younger companies which we fund, for which the platforms or the analytics is more important. So every D2C business would have its own nuances. Understanding the audience is more towards starting up on D2C, then these platforms are the only viable options to start with, and understand that how they marry the data set.
Cool, wonderful. Now we have understood what is cloud computing, how it is helping brands grow in tier 2 and beyond, and in the global markets. I want to understand from you, Amit, what are the underlying opportunities still there in tier 2 and beyond cities?
So I look at So at least for me, I look at opportunities in two ways. Opportunities in smaller cities to cater to the market in the same city. That's one kind of opportunity. As an example, for service industry. So you set up a place where you're providing service at a location, people come there. An example could also be a big hotel or a spa. So that's one kind of an opportunity. In my head, that's a smaller opportunity. Okay. You won't have too many of these opportunities where people would come to that city to take care of your service. You can also have a service offering for people already staying in that. For example, we have delivery partners who provide service to all the people in a particular city. I think the larger opportunity from all of these markets is the innovation opportunity. We keep hearing about people innovating and knowing their own industry very well. And sometimes we think of this in vacuum. An easier way to think is, for example, let's take tea gardens in Siliguri. Now, Siliguri would come in our definition as a tier 2, tier 3 city. It's already known for some specific kind of product, which is tea in this case. And the person there would have very deep understanding of tea. Now, using that understanding of tea, you could create a product which is not just relevant for that particular market and not just relevant for India, but relevant for world. An example in my mind is Dorji teas. I met these guys, Ishan, and it was very interesting because they have taken a small, they had a small tea garden which was heredited, like it came on from generation that was not doing well. Knowing tea as well as they did, they were able to really create products which were relevant for everyone. Now that is providing employment to the city, to that market, but that's also growing the overall pace of the economy. To me, that is the larger opportunity, and a lot of geographies have unique strengths, especially in India, where because of the location, you may have some strength because of the kind of, so they could locations which have a lot of people, so you can have industries which need lots of labor. You have geographical locations which have their own climate, which allows some kind of specific plants or things to grow. So like Kerala has a lot of specific spices. So all of them can become hubs by leveraging the local requirements or local strength. That's what is the bigger opportunity.
So the opportunities are immense, and I'm very sure Nikhil is taking the advantage of the opportunities by penetrating deeper into tier 2 and beyond. Apart from that, you have implied cloud computing as well. So I want to understand, does it minimizes or increases the infrastructure cost or maybe the upfront cost for the D2C brand?
And of course, I think if I look at taking our products to market, right, I think it absolutely makes it much easier and lower cost to go to market. And I think if I can extend the word cloud to digital services in general, right? I think you all know this, just worth repeating. The reason you're seeing so many D2C brands sprout today is traditionally building a new brand business was hard, right? How do you build the product? How do you advertise? Everything needed scale to get on TV, to get on print. How do you build distribution, right? I think there's so many services available now from a shop front, storefront to third-party logistics to digital advertising on Insta, YouTube, right? Which have made the cost of starting a business and cloud platforms to host your solutions, right? So much easier. So every D2C, you see a lot more D2C brands. It's always, as somebody mentioned, easier to scale first digitally online. But yes, eventually the bigger market still is in India is offline. So you got to go there. But yeah, it makes a huge difference to your initial costs to start a business, build some scale digitally.
Cool. So, Rahul, if you can add to it, I want to understand from you what strategies the brand should employ to achieve a rapid growth.
I mean, it's a pretty broad question because first it starts
What
with
you did at Moglix, I mean, you can explain that with.
So, I mean, we don't have a physical product that we own, right? So, but if I look at it from a software stack perspective, obviously building a strong catalog matters because that is part of, like, why would someone come to your platform? Particularly if you're creating a platform. Now people are not looking at platforms which would have very limited number of SKUs. So you have to digitize and build the entire catalog, put it on cloud and things like that. And second, I think the element of what is the value promise that you are doing to the customer. Because even if you attract customers onto the platform, if you do not have a unique value proposition and if you're not able to deliver that consistently, the customers are not going to come to you again. Irrespective of how much advertising you may do, the customers are not going to come back to you. So I would say these two are very important elements as you build the company, at least in our case, build the right catalog, build the value proposition which is unique, and then make sure that you deliver the value proposition consistently. And then I think with respect to the software stack that we are talking of, I think it becomes very interesting because as you go across the journey, you realize that there are lots of nuts and bolts that you need to work on because otherwise your infrastructure cost can suddenly become a large portion of your P&L. So literally you have to be continuously renegotiating with all your service providers to make sure that the cost of infrastructure is in line with the kind of product that you're selling and it doesn't become a drag on your gross margin.
So USP is one thing which you have to take care of, other part is CX and tech. Coming back to you, Shalin, I want to understand, does all these innovations helps in improving the brand going ahead or do they create challenges also?
I think definitely, I mean, Rahul talked about cost and that at a certain scale it starts becoming important. I mean, we are seeing a lot of very large tech companies struggling with some of the infra cost. But at an overall agenda level, I think, it definitely helps in innovation. And I think to me, there are three facets to this. One is as a founder or a company, you say, okay, fine, I want to drive towards certain outcomes. You have best-in-class applications available to you on a plug-and-play. And you can figure out what's working for you versus not. I mean, it's not a year-long cycle for you to do that. You can do it in 2 weeks, spend a few $1,000s, and get a sense, working, not working, let's move on. So that's number one. Number two, I think, is that earlier, for example, a lot of these pieces will not talk to each other. You have, a logistics piece which is separate, but you have a customer piece which is separate. Today, actually, all this data seamlessly flows. And therefore, your ability to actually integrate and get some more insight out of it is much better. And I think the third one is as a company progresses, and we see a lot of this towards the mid-sized companies, is to part which Ishmita was also talking about, is you want to build something more custom. So I want to have my customized, personalized, personalization engine, recommendation engine, and so on. And so what you can do is almost like a Lego block do it. You take best in class what you have, and then you work with either developers or other service providers, again available on the marketplace, and use them to kind of get to that. and again shortens the process significantly. I mean, I've seen companies initially struggle with it for almost 2 years to get something right. Today, you know, it's a matter of months where they start getting real good outputs out of this. So from an innovation point of view, I think net the story is positive. I mean, of course, Rahul's point being there that, you know, at some point in time, you have to figure out how to defray the costs and expenses.
Ishpreet, my last question to you is, what actually D2C brands can do to create more job opportunities in Tier 2 and beyond, apart from using tech, CX, and apart from having a USP?
Actually, D2C as a word is counterintuitive to creating jobs, besides having a backward integration and creating jobs at the manufacturing leg. But to be specific, I think from a Tier 2, Tier 3 perspective, as cities coverage, as I spoke about earlier, the reach is tremendous in today's time. Since brand awareness is all-time high, but the loyalties are not as good, because take skincare as an example. Within consumer category, you will have at least every day new skincare brands coming to compete with each other. So how do you keep on differentiating in order to make sure that it gets reach of the masses? And that comes back to a lot of other factors as well. I think it's all about product innovation, it's all about supply chain, which people generally don't speak about, that the product is moving at the right time from the shelves, if it has the right audience. So whether it's the flagship cities or beyond, I think it's more about making sure that if you're spending right, the return on ad spends are at the right levels. And if you're able to create a backward integration in terms of ensuring that supply chain and manufacturing is in its place, is where the job creation is the highest. From a perspective of the customer being online available, so it has to be more towards physical infrastructure.
I hope we have covered most of the aspects from the D2C perspective, to the Tier 2 and beyond perspective, and cloud computing perspective. If you still have any questions, we have 40 seconds. We can take one question. Yeah, over there.
Hi everybody, I'm Mehraj Dubey from Your Next Orbit. I'm just curious to know what stage of D2C wave we are in. I mean, it's already second wave, or some sort of, some markets are already saturating. All of you are experts, so I'm just curious to know what do you think? Thank you.
I think I won't look at, I think these are fad terms, D2C wave and all. I think at any given point of time, there's an opportunity for a company with the right product and right value proposition to succeed. So I don't think it's like a particular time that this is a fad or this is on the way down. If you're committed and you're clear what you want to achieve, and you're doing it at the which is relevant to the customers, you will succeed. So yes, there can be ebbs and flows in terms of how many people are willing to invest in the short term, but if your proposition is good, you will find success.
Yeah.
I would actually say that this is a start, because I think if you go to any Western market, the size of economy has a lot of implication in terms of derivative products. I mean, when we started, we probably had one moisturizer cream, right? Now there are like 50 different variants, and for most men it is difficult to figure out what is the difference between one versus the other. So as the economy goes from the current size to 5 trillion to 10 trillion, the number of micro opportunities are going to just explode. And then we'll start to have, like, for every different skin texture to, I mean, like, all kinds of possibilities are there. So I believe it's just a start. So probably the question you wanted to ask was, is the investors investing in the D2C or not? That wave will keep on going and coming. So I don't think it's, maybe first wave is there, but like investors will continue to be there.
Oh, can you hear me? Yes. So as Rahul mentioned, I think overall, you just throw a stone in India, we find opportunities, and that's at the cusp of it. I think innovation is very important. We're still seeing product being not as innovative as it should be in today's time in consumer category, because as I said, awareness is very high. If you want to maintain loyalties of a brand, and that's where the scale comes in, it has to make sure that there's a lot of innovation at the back end. I think from an investment opportunities perspective, it's cyclic. You do see, we have just funded a company called Taraya, who's done phenomenally well in a very niche segment of hair oil. And similarly, there's a company in South India called Sweet Karma Coffee, which does a very different kind of nuts and savories. So these are very niche companies coming from niche markets, but they have been able to create pan-India presence because the product was very strong. So if you're still concentrating on the product and the repeat rate is very organic, India is an opportunity. We're talking about the consumption story in India. So we're just getting started.
Thank you for the question. Everybody took the interest. Nice. Thank you for being a wonderful audience today. And with this, we'll wrap up this session. Thank you so much.